working in the spirit of the Golden Empire. This is 17 News at 6.
A very good Monday evening to you. Thanks for joining us for 17 News at 6. I'm Tammy Melchak.
And I'm Jim Scott. Pleased to have your company this hour. Today marks an auspicious day in Bakersfield history. Exactly 70 years ago today, August 22nd, 1952, a magnitude 5.8 earthquake rocked the city. It was actually an aftershock from the previous month's 7.3 Tehachapi earthquake.
Now, the Bakersfield earthquake was not as deadly as the Tehachapi quake, which killed 12, but architecturally, it was a different story. Bakersfield would never look the same.
For the past 2 months, 17's Robert Price has been researching the traumatic summer of '52, and tonight, on the anniversary of that defining day, he files this report.
In 1924, a German immigrant by the name of George Haberfelde took his daughter on a tour of some of the great landmarks of Europe and Asia. When he returned, inspired by the imposing dignity of German, Moorish, and Roman architecture, as well as the work of French-trained American Louis Sullivan, he commissioned one of Bakersfield's best-known architects, Charles Bigger, to design this. In presenting the Haberfelde building to his adopted hometown in 1927, George Haberfelde, the city's outgoing mayor and owner of the local Ford dealership, didn't just create a distinctive and enduring landmark on the northeast corner of 17th and Chester. He built a survivor. When the Bakersfield earthquake of August 22nd, 1952 shook this bustling oil and ag town, already emotionally reeling and structurally weakened by a month of aftershocks from the July 21st Tehachapi earthquake, it created winners and losers. In 10 terrifying, violent seconds, the August 22nd quake steered Bakersfield's brick and mortar future in a dramatically different direction, leaving behind many fallen landmarks of the city's past. The Bakersfield earthquake of exactly 70 years ago cleaved this city's future into two eras, pre-1952 and post-1952. Not 100 feet from the Haberfelde, in the middle of an adjacent intersection, stood the 64-foot-tall Beale Memorial Clock Tower. Kern County pioneer Truxton Beale, a former U.S. ambassador to Spain, gifted it to the city in 1904, inspired by a clock tower he'd admired in Spain. Beale had funded Bakersfield's original Beale Memorial Library at 17th and Chester, where the city building department now stands, in honor of his father, Edward Fitzgerald Beale, and then the clock tower in honor of his mother Mary. This is a replica, built in 1964, a mile and a half north of the original. The August 22nd earthquake did for the city council something it had failed to do 40 years earlier. In 1912, the council voted to remove the clock tower to make way for trolley car tracks. Historic preservationists objected, and the clock tower and its 1,000-pound bell stayed put. The earthquake presented the city with a second opportunity to rid itself of a safety hazard and traffic impediment. This time, over scattered objections, the city council prevailed. Two neighbors, the Haberfelde building and the Beale clock tower, each an object of architectural distinction and classic inspiration. One virtually untouched by the Bakersfield earthquake, the other condemned by it. To Frank Sullivan, mayor of Bakersfield at the time, the earthquake was, quote, urban renewal by act of God. Demolition companies called it a bonanza. There was so much work in Bakersfield, LA-based companies were still advertising in the pages of the newspaper 5 years after the summer of '52. New construction boomed, and construction companies followed the money. 90 school classrooms were damaged by the July 21st quake, and 103 more were lost in the Bakersfield aftershock of August 22nd, prompting builders across California to descend on the city. When bids went out to rebuild the Oleander District's William Penn School, damaged by the August 22nd quake, 13 construction companies submitted proposals. Compare a postcard depicting downtown Bakersfield in the 20s, 30s, 40s with today's downtown core, and the differences are striking. It's amazing what an earthquake can do. Behold the Kern County Courthouse, built in 1912, a block south of the Haberfelde at the corner of Truxton and Chester, but facing west toward Chester. It had the distinguished presence of a Greek Parthenon, but the damage it suffered in the 5.8 magnitude aftershock was deemed irreparable, at least from an economic point of view, and it was razed. But it wasn't just a courthouse. The building housed most of county government, including, in the courthouse basement, a second incarnation of the library donated by Truxtun Beale. In one fell swoop, Beale's tributes to his mother and father were both condemned. These iconic 8-foot-tall warrior maidens, positioned along the roofline 65 feet up, were among the few embellishments salvaged. The courthouse was replaced in 1959 by the courthouse still in use today. Rectangular, devoid of ornamentation, utilitarian. A dramatic difference to understate the obvious. A new Beale Memorial Library was built at Truxtun and L in 1957. Today, that building is Kern County Jury Services. And the fourth version of the Beale Memorial Library, completed in 1988, is a couple of blocks east. St. Francis Church stood at the corner of Truxtun and I until it was fractured by the earthquake. One of its two distinctive spires crashed into the middle of Truxtun Avenue. In 1958, a new county juvenile hall was built where the church had been, and eventually, right behind it, a parking garage for city employees. Later, a bank took up residence in the building. Today, it's the Kern County Recorder's Office, conveniently next door to Kern County Hall of Records, a 1909 structure remodeled in 1939 and solid enough to have withstood the earthquake intact. And St. Francis Church, the one familiar to thousands of present-day Catholic parishioners, is here at 9th and 8th Streets. It was dedicated in 1959. Other landmarks were condemned as well, whether because of structural damage so severe they had become dangers, or because of opportunity justified by news headlines. Among those terminally damaged government buildings was the city's original 1876 courthouse at Chester and 16th. It had been converted to other purposes after the 1912 courthouse was built. Another doomed building was the downtown jail at Truxtun and Q, where city and county criminal records were kept. In its place today is a 53,000 square foot office building called the Centennial Center, constructed in 1962. The federal government's immigration and customs enforcement offices are headquartered here. Also gone is the old Bakersfield City Hall, the attached police station, and many city government offices, some of which had been irreparably damaged in the Tehachapi main shock 33 days earlier. Some government services were farmed out to the county fairgrounds, which was then near Sam Lynn Ballpark, and many government offices were headquartered in tents. They were the very same tents the high school had used to accommodate the flood of Dust Bowl migrant children who overwhelmed the city school system in the late 30s. The new city hall was completed in 1955, and a new police station in 1976.
Just incredible how much of our architectural identity this city lost in just 10 seconds.
It's so sad. Those are such beautiful old buildings.
Just changed it forever.
Yeah.
Well, the cost of that traumatic day 70 years ago was not just confined to brick and mortar.
Lives were lost as well. The human toll from the Bakersfield earthquake in 1952, when 17 News continues in 2 minutes.
All those hours of training, it's for this. Let's go! No heat check! Yes! It's gonna be a race! I got chills!
American Ninja Warrior, tonight on NBC.
The stakes are higher than they have ever been.
Best performance of the night. You have a good chance of winning this whole thing.
Owning your own home is a dream come true.
So many Californians never missed a mortgage payment before COVID.
The pandemic hit all of us hard.
We could use a fresh start.
If you've missed mortgage payments during COVID, California Mortgage Relief can help save your home. Direct payments to your lender to cover missed payments. No fees, nothing to pay back. Find out if you qualify today. camortgagerelief.org.
Hi, I'm Joe Holstein, president of SunPower by Quality Home Services. SunPower by Quality Home Services is the Valley's best choice for solar for your home. But don't just take it from us. Listen to what our customers have to say.
It's most powerful, most reliable. They were professional. They were extremely organized. They got the job done as they told me they were going to get it done. Matter of fact, they got the job done quicker than they actually said they were going to be able to get it done. The installation was phenomenal. The people were phenomenal.
Call us or go online to schedule a free estimate.
Are you ready to make junk disappear?
I've never been more ready in my life. We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point. 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We'll be there before you hang up the phone.
FFX. Join 17 Sports Director Taylor Schaub as he delivers scores and highlights. FFX every Friday night.
FFX, local high school football.
Right here on TV 17.
Action-packed excitement every Friday night.
Lerner's Dress Shop on 19th Street, one door east of Chester, was among the businesses most seriously damaged in the August 52 quake. It also saw one of the city's 2 fatalities. Edna Bell Ledbetter, a 26-year-old mother from McFarland, was shopping with her younger sister Lily Hobbs when the building started shaking violently. Customers screamed. People ducked under dress racks. Ledbetter made a dash for the door and had almost reached it when a side wall came down, crushing her beneath tons of bricks and debris. Her sister was injured but survived. Eerily, these 2 mannequins were left standing, virtually untouched by the violent chaos. The dress shop was eventually demolished. Today, it's a parking lot of a physical therapy office. The other fatality took place here on East 19th Street at Kern County Equipment Company. 66-year-old Patman Cosby, a retired Southern Pacific Railroad engineer, fell through the collapsing floor into the basement and was crushed under a mountain of bricks and farm equipment. That building across the street from the present-day location of Woolgrowers Basque Restaurant had to be razed. Today, it's a fenced-off industrial yard. In the 70s and 80s, Kern County Equipment Company sold its farming equipment to other distributors, changed its name, and moved out of the area. The August earthquake brought down the facade of Montgomery Ward, then primarily a mail-order store on Chester Avenue. The building was condemned, but the company turned disaster into opportunity. This gargantuan 154,000 square foot edifice, a multi-level big box department store envisioned before big box stores were part of our retail vocabulary, opened in 1960, helping to ignite a commercial building boom on F Street. Today it's the home of CityServe, a faith-based community service network. And Ward's original location on Chester Avenue, Valley Strong Credit Union's downtown branch. Some buildings survived, but were never the same. Chief among them is the Hopkins Building, an office building at 19th and Chester. It was constructed in 1904, the same year as the clock tower, and substantially renovated in 1919 after its primary tenant, a department store called Hockheimer's, was wiped out by a fire. It lost much of its ornamentation in the August 22nd aftershock, but remains substantially intact. Today, it is a ghost building, frozen in time, a Twilight Zone snapshot of the way it was in 1952. Not damaged enough to be demolished, not intact enough to stay the same. That was the fate of the Hopkins Building. And so it remains, a silent commemoration of the earthquake that changed Bakersfield's downtown forever. Ground floor businesses are open, but upstairs an eerie, dusty silence pervades. The decaled glass doors communicating a forgotten past, an advertising agency, a dentist's office, a law firm, including the offices of Jess Dorsey, a former Kern County District Attorney and State Senator. Close your eyes and you can still hear the building's ringing phones, chattering typewriter keys, muffled conversations. Much of downtown Bakersfield was built between 1925 and 1950, the most sustained and dramatic period of growth since the city's devastating fire of 1889. The lesson of that great fire? Cities built of wood are vulnerable to flames. The lesson of 1952? Cities built of brick are vulnerable to earthquake. With its 2 major disasters, 64 years apart, Bakersfield experienced the vulnerability of each. Concrete structures, such as the fortress-like Padre Hotel, survived both. The Spanish Revival 8-story, built in 1928, suffered only minor earthquake damage. Little wonder, a decade later, the Kern County Board of Supervisors approved the thick-walled Padre as a Cold War-era civil defense shelter. Today, it's a bustling boutique hotel, having moved on from its days as the brooding fiefdom of its longtime iconoclastic owner, Milton Spartacus Miller. Another poured concrete survivor was Harvey Auditorium at Bakersfield High School. The campus sustained damage elsewhere, including the administration and the industrial arts buildings, and people were understandably wary about the stability of the auditorium. But famous flamboyant pianist Liberace, the Elton John of his time, eased their concerns, headlining an earthquake benefit 2 months after the disaster. Also intact was the Sill Building, built in 1939, and still bustling with tenants. The Egyptian Revival Bank of America, built in 1930 and now home to Star's Dinner Theater. Brock's Department Store, now an antiques and consignment store, built in 1920. Scribner's Opera House, which opened in 1899, became the California Theater in 1920, and after transitioning into a bank, has long been vacant. The 1910 Security Trust Bank, which in previous and subsequent incarnations was the Union Stage Depot, the French Cafe, and Bee's Loft, among others, and is now the 1800 restaurant. The Sumner Train Station, built in 1889, and the subject of current rehabilitation efforts. The 1914 Tegler Hotel, which sustained significant damage to its facade and lost its 5th floor, a garden patio. And the 19th century Sesmat Hotel, from whose balcony President William McKinley once addressed a crowd. Many of the survivors had one man in common, one architect. Charles Bigger's influence was not just artistic, not just historically and culturally informed, it was structurally meticulous, and consequently his enduring contributions are outsized in numbers. In addition to the Haberfelde and Harvey Auditorium, Bigger was the supervising architect for First Baptist Church, which we know today as the Bell Tower Club, built in 1946 and standing strong today. The Woman's Club, built in 1921 and still intact. The 1926 Bakersfield Californian, which sustained damage primarily to its ladies' annex, essentially a women's public restroom. The 1928 Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce, today the Kern County Museum, which suffered moderate damage. The majestic Fox Theater, built in 1930 and still solid. And the Fish Building, which many remember as J.C. Penney's, built in 1938, today largely vacant, but at least proven earthquake-worthy. What is left as a whole is very different from what had been before, but Bakersfield's transformation from a city whose visual character owed much to the great cities of Europe into the mishmash of styles, eras, and levels of artistic commitment we see today wasn't hastened merely by a series of earthquakes. It was shaped by a series of decisions that weighed tradition and respect for history against financial challenge, opportunity for profit, and what some might call a misguided urge to, quote, modernize. And modernization meant moving away from classic architecture, away from the French and Italian influences, the Spanish Revival, Victorian, Art Deco, and Neo-Gothic buildings, away from the decorative arches, finials, patterns, and scalloping, to this, the drab, rectangular functionality of 1950s and 60s. World War II had changed how America viewed itself, along with new consumer products and technology. The country had started moving away from architecture of a developing world power to the architecture of a newly established one. The summer of 1952 was defined by a series of seismic shocks that terrified residents for 33 days and killed 14 people, including 2 in Bakersfield on August 22nd. Those lives could not be saved, but could some of the architectural character of Bakersfield, developed over the previous 6 decades, have been preserved? Could the influences of a dozen classic schools of architecture and the work of a roster of inspired artisans of a decades-distant golden age have been saved? All we can do now is look at the photographs and wonder. Or we could look at what Santa Barbara did in 1925 after an earthquake devastated 36 downtown blocks, requiring substantial demolition and reconstruction. As I learned on a visit to Santa Barbara in June, city leaders saw the earthquake as an opportunity, and they rebuilt in a unified theme style that created and preserved a distinct sense of place. Santa Barbara style, they call it. Too late for Bakersfield, you say? The great Kern County earthquake sequence of 1952 has come and gone, but history and geology remind us that another one is right around the corner, whether in 100 days or 100 years. California is, after all, earthquake country, and we in Bakersfield are right in the middle of it. At Harvey Auditorium, Robert Price, 17 News.
All right, fine work there by Robert Price. There is much, much more about the summer of '52 and how it changed Kern County forever, including some fascinating side stories, all compiled by our Bob Price. And you can find all of it on our website, kget.com.